Great. So today we have another interesting question, which is out of consciousness and matter, what came first according to you? Right? So the question is, according to me, what came first? Is it consciousness or matter? Right? Well, since you asked according to me, I've always said that consciousness is something that has always existed. It is something that is always there. Right? So the matter of it coming first or second doesn't even arise because consciousness is something that is always there. It is ever present. It was never born. It will never die. And since it has never come, and it will never come because it has never gone away in the first place. So there it is. Your question is answered, right? Consciousness is always there and matter comes after it. But something that is more apt to compare is out of mind and matter, what came first? Because that is a comparison that is uh, usually done, and some people just call the mind as consciousness. So I understand maybe this is what you were trying to ask, right? Out of mind and matter, what came first? And this is a much debated question in philosophy, where there are two factions of people or philosophers. The first one are idealists that believe that mind is something that has come first. It is what gives rise to matter, to different individual objects and sentient creatures that we see around us. So those are idealists. And there is another group of people called as the materialists who say matter has come first and then it has led on to become more conscious over time. Materialists believe that matter has evolved over time to, to become sentient creatures like us humans. And of course, there are theories on both sides and whatnot. But Vedanta gives us a very clear explanation. And to do that, first I'll have to take off idealists and materialists out of the picture, right? And the answer that is very evident from Vedanta is that consciousness has always existed. And out of that, simultaneously, mind and matter are born. They are born at the same instant. To say that they are born at the same time would be slightly wrong because time has not even come into the picture yet. It's just mind and matter that have immediately or simultaneously sprung out of consciousness. And why does that happen is is very important to understand, because we can't just say that it just happens as such and sort of believe that. We want to know here, why does that happen? Why is it that mind and matter are created at the same time? So as we saw in the last video, right, that consciousness is all that exists. Consciousness is trying to express itself and experience itself, right? So it is trying to experience, but there exists nothing other than consciousness. So what does it experience? It has nothing to experience other than itself. For that, it will have to see something externally. But there's a core problem here, right? There is nothing external to experience in the first place. So what will it experience? That is when matter comes into the picture, right? Consciousness manifests itself as matter, right? Imagine a material object like a piece of rock, right? Let's say this is a square piece of rock, which is strange, but just imagine this to be a rock, right? Now consciousness can experience something which is not itself in its purest form, but It's something new to experience, right? It has given rise to something out of its creativity, out of its massive potential, which can potentially be anything. It has given rise to something, right? But the instant it gives rise to something, there's a purpose behind it, right? And what is that purpose? The purpose is to experience it. And consciousness, like we've seen, doesn't have memory yet, right? So if you see, consciousness is just the property of being conscious of something, right? Like, let's say I see this rock and then the rock disappears. I will have no memory of the experience. And what good is an experience that is not committed to memory, right? It's as if you haven't had that experience ever, right? If you cannot commit it to memory, the experience is of no use, right? So there needs to be memory, information of the consciousness experiencing the rock has to be there, right? And the moment that happens, there is the mind. The very act of experiencing is done by the mind when it sees matter, right? So for consciousness to experience, mind is needed. For consciousness to experience anything and not forget it, mind is needed. The mind is literally made up of information, right? Layers and layers of information. Information then sort of mingles with every other piece of information and creates different layers and combinations of information. That is how the mind develops. And of course, one experience is not satisfactory. So, different forms of matter, different shapes, sizes, colors, everything that can be experienced is created. So, for consciousness to experience anything at all, mind is needed, right? And for consciousness to experience something other than itself, something that is apparently other than itself, apparently is the key word here. Something that appears to be not consciousness. Something is needed, that something is matter. So it is matter it is the experience of matter that is stored as information. So both of these things have to be simultaneously created, simultaneously sprung into existence, right? These are simultaneously created, co created. In Buddhism, there is a word for it. It's called sama utpad, which means co creation. And what is interesting is that when mind experiences matter, right? Let's say this is the experience, right? The mind is seeing matter and the information is coming back to the mind, right? This is the process of experience, right? If you see the process of experience, it is done for us, at least for the human mind, it is done in terms of space and time, right? Space and time are not fundamental to our existence. They are just a measurement of the quality of our experience. So if I have to ask you, how big of a rock did you see? Or like how far was the rock away from you? The experience is quantified since it's material that we are experiencing. It it can be quantified in terms of space. The quantity, the quantum of experience is just measured in terms of space. And also, maybe if you were, walk towards the rock starts getting closer to you, or you start getting closer to the rock. So your experience changes, right? And that change is measured in terms of time, right? The mistake that most people make is that they think space and time are fundamental properties uh, in which we exist and are conscious. In reality, it is the other way around. It is that on the backdrop of consciousness, space and time are just parameters of our experience. Let me clear this out and I'll tell you another interesting fact. So if you see a coin, right? A coin. A coin has two sides, heads, and there is the tails side, isn't it? Do you know what this is called in India? So if you ask somebody in India what is heads and tails called, they'll probably reply that it's called heads and tails only. But the technical terms for this are chit and pat, right? Chit and pat. And if you literally translate these things, chit literally means information, information. And pat means the plank, any plank or a slate-like object that information can be written on. So pat just means plank. You see the theme that I'm getting at, right? Information is written onto matter, right? Information, like I told you, mind is just made up of information, right? So this is the mind and this is matter. They need to coexist because they are interdependent. For one of these to exist and function, the other is necessary. And what is the significance of both sides of the coin being called chit and pat? That is because two sides of the coin cannot be created at different times, right? They were co created, simultaneously born. So that'll be it for today. Do contemplate on this.